what if we've got this story all wrong? What if this last guy, the one who hides his money instead of investing it, is actually the one who gets it right? Yeah, that guy is the hero of the story. And those other characters who returned with so much more, so many more talents than they started with, those guys, and even the master himself, are the bad guys. It's worth asking if we might indeed have this story all wrong. Now, first, remember that the word talent in this gospel does not refer to talents as we think of them. A good singing voice, skills on the soccer field, brilliance in the classroom. No, a talent is a very large amount of money. And at that time, there were no banks available to the normal Jewish person, which would result in the kind of interest these guys show up with. The only way I could imagine is that they return so much more money is that, well, they had some sort of bad behavior, like maybe they used their position to somehow extort money from someone else. Otherwise, where would they have gotten it? And this last guy then is the one who refuses to do that. And for not going along with the bad behavior, he suffers unjustly. He does speak truth to the wicked master, and then he pays a price for it. He says, "Master, I know that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered." The master actually agrees that he is like that. And then he unjustly throws him out into the darkness where there is wailing and grinding of teeth. The good news I propose: God is not at all like that master. God is not the one who throws this guy into torment for refusing to do the wrong thing. No, I believe that God is the one who, after this guy is in the darkness and lost and suffering, God is the one who hunts for him, finds him, and loves him into healing. That is the God I believe in. And that is how I believe God treats us as well. Maybe you've known times of loneliness and darkness like that guy felt. Most of us have been there at some point or another. And in the tough times in my life, it is now clear to me that God was not the one who threw me into them, but the one who came and found me there. I do think we sometimes get God all wrong. So much of what we think of God or how we think God is comes from people like our own relationship with our moms and our dads. And yes, God is like the best qualities in our parents, and so much more than that. And no, God is not at all like the worst qualities in them. And this is where we really need to use our heads to think this through. Because usually the wounds and limitations of our parents, as with others who have some kind of authority over us, distort our image of who God truly is. It's especially difficult for us to get God right if we grew up with a mom or dad who was, for example, demanding or abusive, or absent, alcoholic, angry all the time. And if we grew up with any of that, we usually fear a vengeful God who will throw us out into the darkness if we mess up. Or we believe in a God who sends suffering to us to punish us or to bring some good out for us, right? Or we grow up believing we will never measure up to God, that we are not good enough in ourselves. Or we doubt that God could ever really care personally about us as we are. Most of us have grown up with varying degrees of such distorted images of God. That's why the 12th century mystic Meister Eckhart said, we have to let go of God in order to find God. In other words, we have to do the work to let go of the false images of God to be able to meet the real, the living God. And over the years, I know I have had to rethink my understanding of God. Now, there are a number of ways to do this, to rethink God, and therefore to be able to know God as God is. One of the best ways is to savor the glimpses of God that we have been blessed to see in the goodness of people, and sometimes even in the goodness in our own hearts. At a tough time in my life, someone told me this story, and he swore that it was true, and he told it to me to help me keep perspective during those difficult days. And he said, once a little boy was sitting at his desk in his second grade classroom when suddenly he noticed that there was a puddle between his feet and that the front of his pants was wet. He had never wet his pants before, and he was mortified. He says, please, dear God, I'm in big trouble, help. He looks up to see a classmate named Susie carrying the class goldfish bowl that they were readying for their pet goldfish, filled with water. And as she walks past him, she slips and all the water lands in the boy's lap. Now he pretends to be a bit offended, but on the inside he is saying, thank you, Jesus, thank you. Because now instead of being the object of ridicule, he gets all this like sympathy and care. Susie, however, is the one who thus gets like made fun of for being a klutz. After school, she's standing off all by herself. He walks over and whispers, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Susie whispers back, I wet my pants once too. The man said to me, that is what God is like. And I got what he was saying. God didn't cause the bad stuff I was experiencing. Instead, just as Susie took on the suffering of her classmate, that's what God does. In Jesus, God has freely taken on all of our suffering, even our death. So, who has loved you like that? Who's ever suffered for you? It might not be anything dramatic. Maybe the person who helped you when you were sick or stood by you at a scary time or who absorbed some pain on your behalf. In that, you got a glimpse of the goodness, truly, at the very heart of God. God is, thank goodness, so much more loving than we imagine.